It's now 6 o'clock and the,
Jerry, you should gavel so they know to turn on.
oh,
Yep.
oh, ooh, I didn't mean to hit it. Whoa, I'm sorry. Okay,
That was a good one.
it's 6 PM.
We're awake now.
And April 12th meeting of the CDA, please come to order. Patrick, you want to take a roll call, please?
Alderman Haas,
Here.
Jim Lisinski,
Here.
Don Niemer,
Here.
and Jerry Motter.
Here. We have a quorum.
quorum.
Thank you.
Karen Gale, Wayne Clark, and Alderman Weigel are excused.
Okay, first item on the agenda is to approve the minutes of our previous March 8th meeting.
I move approval. Second.
All in, are any additions or corrections? If not, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Minutes stand approved.
And I meant to move approval of both sets of minutes, March 8th and March
12th.
18th.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, we didn't do that at the last meeting. Forgot that. All right. Previous matters, annual election of chairperson and vice chairperson. Patrick, you have the floor. How do we do the nominations for that?
I nominate Jerry Motter, chairperson, and Wayne Clark, vice chairperson.
Second.
Are there any other nominations? Are there any other nominations? Are there any other nominations? If not, I declare the nominations closed. I accept the nomination, and I believe, I don't know, is Wayne,
The other authoritarian, we were delayed in a dangerous dog.
okay.
We were reviewing dangerous dogs for the last 2 hours.
Oh, yeah.
Administrative appeal, pardon my tardiness, but authoritarian Clark is right there.
Third, authoritarian Clark was nominated for vice chair. I think it'd be best that we maybe
Wait for him?
Wait
Wait
for
for
him and see if he can accept. That's what I'm waiting for. Yes.
see if he'll accept that nomination.
Oh, there he is. Good evening, Mr. Clark.
Oh, I'm sitting in the wrong seat then.
Okay. To bring you up to date, you were nominated for vice chair. Do you accept your nomination?
Be happy to, thank you. Thanks for your confidence, for allowing me to have such an esteemed position.
All right, so now we'll hold the elections. Can we hold them together?
Yeah, you can take it as a,
Okay, the elections will be for chair and vice chair. All in favor? Oh, we gotta have a roll call for that, right?
sure.
Yeah.
Wayne Clark,
Yes, sir.
Don Niemer,
Yep.
Alderman Weigel,
Aye.
Alderman Haas,
Aye.
Jim Lisinski,
Aye.
Jerry Motter.
I abstain from voting for myself, but I will vote for vice chair.
Okay.
Is this the agenda?
Yep.
Yes.
I see that.
According to the vote,
We're on number,
stand elected. Thank you. Item 3, resolution to amendment of line of credit agreement between Holt Ventures LLC and the Community Development Authority of the City of West Dallas. Patrick.
Mr. Chairman, what this is, last year at this time, the hotel was coming out of COVID, and we extended we have a loan with the hotel, and we extended it to April 1st of this year, and they're in the process of refinancing, and they said they should have that done by May, and as a piece, or part of formality, I thought it was best to put it on here to approve that extension, as it expired on April 1st. There is a loan balance of $153,000. That is the balloon payment that is due. So they said they would close, per the communications I have, they would close by the last week of April. So I extended it to May 1st.
I move approval.
Second.
It's been moved for approval and second. Is there any further discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it, resolution passes. Item 4, resolution to approve National Avenue Commercial Corner Code compliance for forgivable loan in the amount up to $33,500 for 6325 West National Avenue and 6325 Mithna LLC. Patrick.
6325 Milford
Mitchell.
LLC is a real estate entity for the acquisition of the property. We've been working with a tenant, and they're part of the ownership of the property to acquire this property. They have an estimate of $104,000 to improve the roof, And as part of this process, you might recall, we've assisted the prospect to get a work towards getting or applying for a site assessment grant to WEDC because of the perceived environmental issues on the property. They do have an accepted offer. They are set to close within, I think, by next week. And this was part of an economic incentive to help bridge the gap because they ended up having reservations about the property because of the environmental, the costs, et cetera. So we expanded. Usually we do around $8,500 for code enforcement. In this case, because this will have a sizable investment besides the roof, new windows, new build out inside, et cetera. We offered $25,000, and that helped get the deal towards the finish line. So in this case, this is a forgivable loan, and it would come from TIF number 7, a half mile, under the half mile radius. And we have economic improvements of a half mile within that TIF plan.
Have any questions?
Yeah, Patrick, remind us again of what the plan is to go into that facility?
So there is an entertainment type use that would move into the property. We do have this in closed session if you want to know more about that user. But that is a different entity name than the real estate entity that's buying the property, but they're affiliated. It would be a kind of a destination type of use. There's a couple of them around Milwaukee. The best description is entertainment with light food. More of your corporate events, a lot of going online and registering your group to come in and participate in the activity that happens there. The similar type of businesses might be the businesses where you could throw an axe, and some of them have miniature golf courses inside. You build them, and et cetera. It's kind of a new trend. It's very, I hate to use the word, hip.
No
Not
one
a
uses
millennial.
hip anymore.
What was that?
No one uses hip anymore.
Okay. So anyways,
Marty's more hip than I am.
It fits well within the vision of the corridor. And as you know, remember the National Avenue Corridor Plan and the 6 points redevelopment. The idea here is to bring more people to the neighborhood, et cetera. So.
Okay. Mr. Niemer, go ahead.
What criteria do we have for providing forgivable loans?
So on the National Avenue corridor, we have a code compliance forgivable loan program, up to $8,500. And the criteria is that you're breaking down a barrier of some sort that prevents you from fully utilizing the space. So some places don't have ADA bathrooms. The landlord says, I won't do it, you do it. And the tenant says, I don't have the money for that. So the place just sits. And that's was one of the things that we saw along the corridor, is that we had vacancies with nothing really happening in them or getting the right type of businesses in there.
Okay.
So-
Is that set up by the council, or is that?
That was set up by the council.
Okay.
And then we took that program, the code compliance, and gave that to the CDA to administer.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chair,
Go ahead, Alderman Wagner.
are we going into closed session on this?
We can if you want, and then we just hold
If
this
it's not too onerous,
resolution.
I do have a couple questions.
Okay, and then we can hold it till,
I'd like to answer. I mean,
Okay.
I'm in favor of it, but I do have some questions I
Okay.
think might be worth
All right.
closed session.
So we'll hold that one for closed session. We go to item 5, discussion regarding redevelopment efforts of 6400 block of West Greenfield Avenue. Patrick?
so, just to bring the CDA up to date, we had a special meeting last month to acquire the former Crawdaddy's property. So now we own the spot and the Crawdaddy's property. So the question is, what do we want to do with this block? And the parking lots that are behind this particular two buildings. The spot had a parking lot, and there's a municipal parking lot, and then there's a public space in this particular area as well. I guess I didn't put the aerial here. Here's the public space. Here's the Crawdaddy's with the kitchen, and here is the Spotlight Lounge. There's a parking lot located behind it, and as well as one in this general area. You can see this is a sizable amount. It's almost, I think, almost an acre of land, or a little bit thereabout. So
Does the park on the east end, is that included?
that is included,
Well, we own that already.
right? So we've, started talking to people in the community, what they would like to see, or the CDA, when they finished the last meeting, a few members said, let's emphasize the reuse of this park space, try to get it programmed, trying to, utilize it in some way. It's a nice space. We don't maintain it very well. If you've been over there, it's needs a little help. There's bricks path that's weaving, and the grass is covered with leaves right now. It's not ideal, right, the situation. The Crawdaddy's property, and if anybody wants to get into these two properties, we'd gladly give you a tour. You know, Alderman Weigel has had the opportunity to see both, to see what we've acquired. They are very vacant and they are aged. But we have started talking to an entity that has some adaptive reuse ideas of the building. So that's something that we can talk about a little bit more in closed session. But at this point, an avenue might be is try to see if that works, and the other avenue is an RFP, a request for proposals, from developers to see what they would envision in this area. I know this morning we had an internal meeting, some of the thoughts was maybe commercial use in this area versus maybe a multifamily development, as we're trying to get those in some particular other areas. Seeing what we could do to attract some sort of commercial use here. But I bring this to your attention just because now we're at a stage where we have to figure out what the vision is and what we want to get at that particular location. And with the group that is looking at it, as we'll talk about in closed session, they have a proven track record. So it's kind of an ideal situation suddenly. So, and it's kind of exciting. The thing to note, and I had this slide in here, it isn't an opportunity zone. So those investors that have a capital gains exposure of some sort, they could take that capital gains and invest it into a project or buy real estate, and it provides them a few hundred basis points on their return. So in other words, if they hold that capital gains in the property, they don't have to pay taxes on the gains when it comes out, which is an advantage. That's one of the things that we saw with the 6 Points development in the west in Sona, is that there's an advantage to having an opportunity zone.
And that's a federal designation?
That's a federal, we applied for it, it was through the federal government said, you can have so many, and then we picked out this particular census tract because it had the numbers that most likely the governor would nominate, the governor had to,
State has to support.
the state had to select the census tracts, and that was done through Wisconsin Housing and Economic Development Authority in the state, so, and we applied for this one and got it. That was a few years ago. So.
Mr. Chair, I think it's wonderful that we came together and have control of this property or this chunk of property and can do something with it. So when somebody comes forth with a proposal for a modern strip club, I think we have to look at that carefully.
Wasn't thinking exactly that, but
And we'll be talking about this in
we
closed
can talk
session.
about it in closed session.
Closed session. No further questions, we'll go to item number 7, discussion regarding, item 6, discussion on 116th and Morgan status environmental review. Patrick.
I know this project has come up multiple times, and I wanted to just have a brief discussion here. We could talk about it in closed session. I just thought because of the environmental concerns, we should just talk about that in closed session. We have done some testing. We found some elevated levels of some gases, and it needs some additional testing, and I'll go into the layout of that all in closed session.
All right, no further
We can
questions?
actually take 7 in closed session, Mr. Chair.
All right,
92nd in Greenfield in closed session. Oh, I can do 92nd in Greenfield.
all right.
Item 8.
Item 8, discussion regarding 92nd and Greenfield Road Development.
Yeah.
Patrick.
We've had a meeting with the developer, Cardinal Capital. They said they were going to be probably back to us by May with a new performa. The performer we have, we've asked for a few questions. He's been tied up in some other developments. They continue focused on doing multifamily here, 146 units. It's a significant, it's a $43 million project. And he said they already, and a bank has expressed this to me in private, that they are interested in financing the first phase of the project. So he thinks that most likely this will be 3 separate projects, 3 separate banks in terms of financing. So would it all get built at once? There or about, there'll be some months of separation, but we had a meeting last week with his attorney here at City Hall. Things are, the numbers are changing, they're getting new construction numbers, and then that's why we would get a new performa. But we are following up with them on the project.
Do you have a sense of the phasing, which goes first?
The end, the
South
church.
first?
The
Oh,
north,
that's north, okay.
the north.
North first.
You think you would start here, but then they have the asbestos issue, and that's in the school. There might be the ability to use something called an environmental TIF here. It's an early kind of discussion. I have to figure this out, but I understand that environmental TIF, it allows us to, do the asbestos removal. That's one of the things. Usually an environmental has to be in the ground or soil, not necessarily in the building. But if you do an environmental TIF, I understand it doesn't factor into the equalized ratio. There's a 12% cap of what can be in a TIF. And if you do an environmental one and then there's housing, it doesn't factor into your 12%. So, which is kind of interesting. We're way under that.
I can say we're not.
We're nowhere
against
near
it.
that, but as if in some communities, that's a huge advantage. But if you do housing and stuff, that there's an advantage to that.
Is there one building gonna stay?
There is one building that would
Along
stay.
92nd Street then?
This is privately owned. I think it's owned by a group called Holy.
Oh.
In this particular area right here. That would stay, but the church, the rectory, and the school would be raised, and then there would be townhomes. Again, an apartment building and an apartment building.
Okay.
Look at those townhomes.
Yeah, they do look nice.
Yeah, so on the picture number 3, the far right picture, those are the townhomes then that would be, where Marty's
Correct.
pointing? Okay, thank you.
And this is the end cap building right here. This would
Yeah.
be-
Yeah, thank you. I was able to figure that one out, but yeah, all right, thanks.
I didn't put the third one in. The third one is actually very positive looking too. I don't know if no, I didn't put it in. Number 9, we can talk about in a closed
Okay,
session.
what about number 10? Discussion regarding status and financing of 6771 West National Avenue.
We have this one in closed session too, but just update, we're working with Baum. They've been having contractors. One morning, we must have had 40 cars all parked outside of the building with contractors coming in. They're getting the hard construction numbers, which is a positive sign. And the other thing that we've been working with is consultants on the historical side of this. The historical tax credits are a significant equity component of the structure. And that's one of the things that we need this, whatever you do with the windows. And this, I was standing there listening to these guys talk, and it goes way over me, but, contractors and the historic guys talking, the contractors go, you can't do this, and these guys are going, well, you have to do this. Becomes an interesting kind of conversation. Because they get the eligibility on the property. It wasn't about what happened here, it was about the look of the building.
Aesthetics of it.
Yeah, and it's the windows. Well, these windows are all individual, but there's also sections. You can kind of see the sections. And then there's an operable component in the middle of them in some cases. So to get the necessary rating, I think it's an R rating, or to be able to do the environmental on the inside, the efficiency, what happens here and how does this look? To just tear this out and rebuild it might be a challenge. Yeah. And then there's also the materials, what these are made out of. So that there's some custom sense to this as well. And I think we estimated the windows themselves at around $3 million. So that's a significant element of the project. They continue to meet with tenants. They've had tenants going through the property as well. So besides contractors, they've been bringing some larger name caterers and event space managers through. And they have significant interest, so. I think that's it. And then on item 11, it's all the variety of projects.
Is there any questions regarding item number 11 for Patrick?
I think we have a couple. 7140 West Greenfield Avenue, it's the old wedding center, old J.C. Penney's. The owner has taken out the bricked-in areas. You can kind of see this area here that they're looking at bringing windows back to this property. And we assisted the property owner apply for a community development impact grant from WEDC, $250,000. I know Sean was diligent in getting that paperwork in and working with the owner, and that's to help underwrite the cost of putting in an elevator. It's equipped, when you look at it, it's equivalent like a 4-story building with the basement and different mezzanine levels, and LaDeco could be a very significant generator of bringing people into our downtown. in terms of an event space. So besides the Gauge, which is seen great success, I think this would be a nice complementary type of venue.
Do we know the time frame on those windows? I'm asking as the alderman of the district.
He's already ordered them.
Oh, excellent.
I mean, the financing is pretty much in place. It's just that he needed help with the elevator costs. I think that came in, I think, close to $300,000 for the elevators. So, you know, the windows themselves are, I think, over $100 and some thousand. I thought I heard 140. So, significant investment. And then on motor castings, this is as of the other day.
Oh, wow.
The demolition is occurring. It's not going as fast as I'd like to see, but they are salvaging a lot of material out of the building. There's a lot of steel and rusty metal coming out of as well as probably foundry sand
But
coming
there's
out of the
semis going out
crevices.
there constantly. They pull all up to one end. You got two of those big shears up there, just shearing this stuff and loading it in big trailers.
Right, I've seen piles of the stuff over there.
Yeah, I
It's
don't know where it's going, but there's a lot of semis coming in there, loading up and leaving.
and then I'm ready for closed session.
Excuse me. For agenda items 4 to 10, the committee may convene in closed session prudent to provisions of section 19.85/1/E of the state statutes for the purpose of deliberating, investing of public funds whenever competitive or bargaining reasons require a closed session. This committee may convene in open session after completion of the closed session to consider the balance of this agenda. Can we have a motion to go into closed session, please?
Second.
Patrick, could you take roll call, please?
Wayne Clark,
Yes.
Jim Lisinski,
Yes.
Don Niemer,
Yes.
Alderman Weigel,
Yes.
Alderman Haas,
Aye.
Jerry Mutter,
Aye.
all in favor of, or going into closed session.
Patrick, we gotta go off the air.
Yep.
National Avenue Commercial Corridor Code compliance for givable loan in the amount of $33,500 for 6325 West National Avenue. And
Move approval.
63
Second.
It's been moved for approval and second. Is there any further discussion? If not, please say aye if you approve.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it, resolution passes. Is there any further business come before this committee? Can I have a motion for adjournment?
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and second, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Meeting adjourned. Thank you, gentlemen.